set out your main priority this morning, which is trying to make the tax system a bit fairer. There's a problem with this, though, because the IFS, the independent figures body, have said that the way that you've used this comparison about the economy becoming less fair is misleading.
Well, I'm afraid I don't know what the IFS have said today, but what is clear is that the economy is more unequal than it was when Labour came to power. And certainly when I talk to my constituents, they feel very strongly that they shouldn't have to pay such a large proportion of their income in tax. They know that they're struggling to pay their rent and to pay their bills, and yet they see wealthy bankers getting away with avoiding paying tax. I don't think that that's fair, and what we've laid out today are plans to make the tax system radically fairer. We want to take those on the lowest incomes out of paying tax altogether, to put £700 back into the pockets of those on lower middle incomes, making a real difference to people's lives.
At the same time, though, and if you haven't seen the thing from the Institute of Fiscal Studies, then I won't press you on that point, but you have, as a party, been making this point that things have got more unequal between what people are paying at the tax at the top and what they're paying at the bottom. And I'll just tell you what they have said this afternoon. They have said that the figures that you have used are at best misleading, and at worst they are meaningless at best and misleading at worst. They say that you have made a comparison that you shouldn't have made. Now, doesn't that undermine your case?
Well, obviously I need to see the detail before I can comment on it, but what I don't think is fair is if you work in a hedge fund, for example, and you get paid in shares, that you're able to pay 18% income tax when people who are at the bottom end of the income scale are paying such a larger proportion of their income in tax. I don't think that that's fair, and that's why we're arguing to radically change the tax system so those on low incomes get taken out of paying tax altogether. That would make a big difference to their lives and a big difference to my constituents' lives in Brent.
And now, how do you think your constituents will react to what we've heard from the Labour Party today in terms of putting out their manifesto?
I think they'll think that the Labour Party is saying, vote for me and you'll get more of the same, because that is basically what the Labour Party is saying today. For example, they've said they just want to freeze income tax. Well, I'm sure that goes down very well if you're earning a decent salary, but it's not quite so positive if you're at the bottom end of the income scale, and that's why we want to see a cut in income tax for those on lower incomes.
Now, in terms of your particular policy brief, Labour has said that they would build 10,000 more homes a year. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Well, it's a drop in the ocean. There's 1.8 million families waiting on social housing waiting lists, desperate for somewhere to live. That's why we're arguing for 250,000 empty properties to be brought back into use. We're putting £1 billion investment into housing, a loans and grants scheme that make a radical difference in communities, dealing with the blight of empty properties, but also stimulating the jobs market, providing 65,000 extra jobs for people in the construction industry and in other industries that would benefit from housing.
That would be expensive, though. I mean, that kind of construction, that kind of employment for people would cost an awful lot. How would you pay for it?
We have been very clear about our priorities. There are certain things that we would stop, that we would switch straight away at the start of a government, and we would invest in this job package for the first year, making that difference to housing. And later we've laid down our plans, £15 billion worth of savings that we would make that would go towards the deficit. So we've been very clear about our spending pledges. We're not making many spending pledges in this election, but I'm proud that housing is one of them because it makes a big difference to people's lives.
Something that you've no doubt argued successfully at the top Lib Dem table. OK, Sarah, thank you very much indeed for now. And there'll be more from the Liberal Democrats when you unveil your manifesto later in the week. The Conservatives' manifesto is tomorrow. The Lib Dems will then take their turn on Wednesday. But most of the attention here today